Tu Mochila es Muy Grande, a memoir podcast by Starloe Galletta. My journey on el Camino de Santiago del Norte. This podcast is my memoirs. What started 10 years ago as descriptions of pictures turned into something so much more. As we walk the ancient way, through cobblestone villages to a modern courtroom, while surviving a near-death experience, I can promise my Camino will be unlike any you have heard before. Please consider liking and subscribing, and leave me a comment on what you're thinking. It lets YouTube know I'm not talking to myself. Thank you for joining me. It is now time to walk. Day 1. Irún de la Sol. After a long train journey from Madrid and 10 years of expectation, I hit that trail with both feet forward and only had to go back for my walking sticks once. And I also was headed towards France until the man turned me around. However, once I was on my way, the view was incredible, much more than I had anticipated. So was the climb. I spent a moment thinking of my previous summer in Sam and Wayland. I chose the right rock and released the water I had carried over from that journey, the water I was getting from a Virginia stream as they struggled and lost their lives in a Mississippi River. Later that night, as dark approached, I knew I would not meet my goal of San Sebastian and found my own trail the hard way down the mountain to La Sol. While asking for directions that I didn't understand, I heard the mewing of a cat in the woods and found Trailer, a thirsty, starving kitty that needed help. I carried him a few miles into town and let him go near some apartment buildings, just hoping someone would find him the next morning. Since I had made it into town after midnight, I actually had no place to go and almost settled into sleep on a bench for the night. Soon as I found one that looked to be safe, I heard a voice from the window above. A woman asked me in Spanish if I needed a place to sleep. After many attempts of explaining what I needed, at 1:30 a.m. she led me to a hotel. She was the first of many trail angels that helped me along the way. Day 2. Leso do Rio. I woke up with a smile on my face and a body that was so bruised and battered from my falls the day before. When trying to pay for the hotel, the man was pointing and talking at me, and though I didn't understand him, I finally realized he was asking me if I wanted desayuno. With nothing to look forward to but a beach walk in the mountains, I started off. Passing the notes in the Basque language made me laugh. I couldn't understand most of what was being said to me, but I sure understood the contents of those notes next to the dog poop. I slid into San Sebastian, looking forward to a few hours on the beach. The water was muy frío. I couldn't put my foot in, I couldn't put my body in, so I sat on the sand and just watched the waves. However, realizing I needed to get walking, I slowly made my way from the sand to Camino. I entered the pasture lands bordered by the Cantabrian Sea. Wooded trails, etched with time, stone pathways colliding with modern roadways. I walked until 10:30 p.m. The struggle of my climbs, the sweat, the tears, the grime, it had no power to contain me. All I had to do was just... I appeared at the albergue, walking out of the mist, startling the owners as they played cards. They quietly showed me to a bed. I made as little noise as possible between the snores as I pulled my sleeping bag and headlamp out of my backpack. Ate my dinner in the bathroom, munching on some trail grub. A woman came in and chastised me about how late I had arrived and how much I was carrying, and that I was walking alone. I sure did feel alone. I stood in the mirror, staring, wondering at the person I was becoming, the person I was turning into. I would wonder about this person in many mirrors, in many puddles, and in many reflections as I traveled on. Day 3. Orio to Sumaya. Last to arrive and first to revive, I was up at 5:30 a.m. trying to get my stuff into the bathroom without waking anyone. As I was getting my bag ready and munching on some breakfast grub, Itzela came back in an hour or so later and started off where she left off the night before. My bag was too heavy. I should be walking with someone. I got in too late the night before. Walking outside, I caught my breath as the view unfolded around me. I could have been in the Appalachians. Misted mountains shrouded in majesty and time, covered with a gentle carpet of multi-hued flowers. All I could do was stare, so I waited for the breakfast ritual to begin. The albergue was really small. Less than 20 people were there. Supposedly, there was some father and son from Texas staying at the same place, but I never met them. In fact, I couldn't speak with anyone around the table. There were no other Americans. People would talk at me in a multitude of languages, and I would observe their body language and their faces, trying to figure out the appropriate response. My small collection of gathered phrases were repeated as a refrain. Soy de Florida. Sí, Estados Unidos. España es muy bonita. My accent changing into a general European voice that could adapt to the tonal qualities of those I spoke with. It would be weeks until I heard my own voice again. People walked past me as I gawked at the town. I slowly made my way down the cobblestone streets, stopping every 10 feet or so to read or take a picture. Soon thereafter, I met up with a group from the albergue. One man, two women. One woman was from France, and the other was Itzela. All of their packs were smaller than mine, and in French and Spanish I was told again, Tu mochila es muy grande, or something of the sort. No matter the language, I heard it from everyone. I drifted away from the crowd, learning very quickly that walking with others meant not taking pictures or seeing anything beyond the next step. The wind cut into my skin through my clothes. I walked with a happy face covered in my head wrap and rain jacket. The sun had retreated behind a thick layer of clouds, the air just 15 degrees cooler, and it would have snowed as the foggy skies dripped like fresh washed clothes. After a point, I was too numb to the cold and really too excited to care. Making my way up the old Roman road, I realized I was really there. A 10-year dream was stretching into the present, and all I had to do was walk. I had a late lunch in the porch of a Gothic church while talking with some peregrinos from France, comparing lives, discussing many topics, and did so with very few common words. Cruising into Sumaya, I found Itzela and crew at a supermercado. We decided to walk to a private albergue and enjoy a communal supper. Italian, Basque, French, Spanish, and my English. It may have been wet, windy, and cold, but I could not and would not have ever asked for it any other way. Day 4. Sumaya to Itzia. After a fabulous evening and communal dinner with fellow pilgrims, The dawn glistened with drops of rain that could do nothing to wash away my excitement. My backpack had gained some weight after the visit to the supermercado, so I was slow to get started as all my friends moved on down the trail before I could even contemplate getting down the driveway. The owner had said if I was by myself to stick to the Camino. The night before, she had been giving us this wonderful description of the coastal E9 route. It's often used as a Camino alternative trail. She had made sure to tell me how dangerous it would be if I were alone, and I hobbled off under the weight of my dreams. At the crossroad where I would have to make a decision, I told myself if my friends arrive while I'm looking at the signs, I will be able to take the dangerous route. Within minutes, they appeared, having taken a side trail that led them back to where I was. Would I do the same trail in the same conditions, knowing what I know now? Absolutely. The misty rain permeated the landscape. The gentle song of the trees whispered all around. I walked with a glowing heart into the rain, amazed that I could be seeing anything as grand as the view in front of me. The highlight of the walk was seeing the billion-year-old rock strata that is unique in the world and a World Heritage Site. I climbed up on muddy steps that threatened to send me crashing down the mountain with every foothold. There were no guardrails or warning signs, no barriers to get around. I could see very easily why it would not be a good idea to take this path alone, especially after getting up after several falls. We trudged up the pasture land with heavy feet, the mud clinging to every surface. I would stop every 3 or 4 steps to scrape my boots because if I didn't, the weight would keep me from being able to lift my legs. 3 or 4 steps later, I would have to scrape again. I was walking with a girl from Italy when my body refused to go down the mountain as the trail indicated. I stood there, looking at the descent, and my feet refused to work. My brain was certain if I took one step, I would hurt myself or fall down. I was frozen with fear. I looked left, I looked right, I looked down, I looked behind me. I couldn't go back, my body wouldn't go forward, so I did what all good kids living in adult bodies would do. I found a safe place to sit, and I made myself slide down that mountain, much to the amusement of everyone around me. As we came to the final kilometers, all we could do is encourage each other along. The rain and mist was so thick that we could not see what, if anything, was around the next corner. The French woman and I decided to stop before we reached Diba. The rest of our crowd had moved on. John from France, who had already walked 1,000 kilometers, the Italian couple who would be going home the next day. Itzela had bailed on us that morning when she had seen the rain. After a good dinner at our hotel, Lawrence and I talked into the night about our lives as people do with strangers who suddenly become friends. I took out the book my students had made and showed her their questions. I was a long way from Rowlett Elementary. Day 5. Itzar to Deva. I woke up with weary bones. Our hotel room looked like our backpacks had exploded. Socks were hanging from the furnace, leftover dinner on the nightstand, clothes drying from every available surface. The floor covered with mud, grass, and random objects that came in on our shoes and rain gear. I slowly passed my bag, wondering how I was going to put one foot in front of the other without falling over. I ate breakfast as if in a dream. I felt I could barely walk out the door, much less down the street. But like I would do on so many mornings when my body raged in silent protest, I hoisted my pack, grabbed my poles, and walked on. Within minutes, a man on a bicycle told us that the church was open and we could get a sello, or a stamp for our pilgrim's credentials. I have been to many places in life, but none have the unique smell and feel of a centuries-old church. My hushed footsteps picked a path to the older woman standing near the altar. She wanted to point out the Virgin of Itzar to us as we gathered, and she got her stamp pad. I mumbled my morning Spanish. Hola, buenos días. Ah, iglesia es muy bonita. Sí, mi mochila es muy grande. Soy de Florida. Sí, Estados Unidos. Sí, mucho distancia. My script was growing. Lawrence was ready to head out, so I put my camera away and walked out onto the cobblestone street, wondering how I was going to hike when my body felt like it was about to fall apart. My surgical incisions hurt. I had carried the pain around like an extra bag, and my excitement had just kept it hidden from me. However, on this morning, all I wanted to do was sit down and cry. I trudged up a small hill, fighting back tears. And then, like what happens on many a hard day for many a teacher, some students came along. They looked to be kindergartners or first graders. They were holding a rope with their teacher going on a field trip. The teacher pointed at us and said something totally unrecognizable. The kids smiled and started saying, "Gaisho, Eguan, Eguan." I had no idea what they were saying, but their smiles told me it was good, and the weight of my worries walked on ahead of me. A bit later, on a slippery uphill, I caught up with those worries as my knee complained about the fall from the day before. My poles dug into the muddy ground, hoisting me forward as I forced myself to walk. Lawrence wasn't moving much faster. The rain kept falling, when out of nowhere a group of 30 or so middle or high school age students topped the hill that we were climbing, coming in our direction. My mind instantly assumed there would be snickers and giggles as we passed. The kids stopped walking as we approached, silently watching us struggle with every step. I could see their teachers standing in the back of the line, and I gave them that universal teacher look of sympathy as I got closer, just waiting for the laughter from their students. When all of a sudden the groups of kids started to clap, a rapid clap that would start and stop. Shouts of Buen Camino were hurled at us. Clap, clap, clap. Buen Camino. Buen Camino. Clap, clap, clap. I looked to my side at their happy faces. To them, I wasn't a sodden wet rat trying to climb in the mud and in the rain, or an object to be made fun of. To them, I was a holy pilgrim, making my way to Santiago de Compostela, no matter the hardship. I started crying before I got to the teachers at the end. All I could do was say gracias and went on by. My backpack became lighter. My pain almost disappeared, and my heart wasn't as heavy. Lawrence and I stopped complaining about the weather. As it happens on the Camino, I dropped back a bit to walk alone, and Lawrence kept going. I stopped in the next town to have lunch and decided to spend the night. Lawrence kept walking. I never saw her again. It continued to rain. I hope you enjoyed your time with me. I'm your host, Starloe Galletta, and you are listening to a Think Time podcast. Please subscribe and get notified. I look forward to your comments and hope to provide some commentary in the next episode. Make good choices. Be good people. Until next time, Buen Camino.